Okay, so what we will do today, I will open the nav.js. So generally we have put all the logic here inside this nav.js. So generally the preferred way is to put the logic inside the action and return the parameter from the action. So whatever logic we have put here inside this Google login, though this Google login will be called, but all this part of the logic we should put inside the my action kind of thing. And my action will trigger the reducer and do the necessary things there. So it is a good idea. We should move this part to the my action, and we should also move this part Firebase part to the my action. And then we should trigger this action, and once the action is triggered it will call the reducers and reducer will update the state, and that's how we should do that one. So how to trigger something from the action into the nav.js, that is the thing which we will learn today. So if you see, we have created one function called as map state to props, which will take the state and give me the reducer variable, and all the reducer information I can use in this my reducer. There is another function we should call that is especially used to call the actions, and that function is called as constant map dispatch to props, equal to, it is an arrow function, and it takes one parameter, and that parameter is called as dispatch. And now we have to do something in this function. Now since we have created this function, we will, okay, she's here. Hello. 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 Hello.
She's gone.
Yeah, she's gone. Okay, I will repeat again because it's a complex part. So since we have created this function, we need to use that function here in this part. So there is a two part. One part is this part, another part is this part. This part is used for the dispatching the action. Hello. 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 He's coming and going, I think. So okay, let's move further. So we have to use this function. What happened? Okay, so what we will do, we have seen we created one function here which will take the state, and state will give the reducer details, and we save it in one variable. We will create another function, and that function is called map dispatch to props. You can change the name whenever you want, but right now let's keep the name same, map dispatch to props, and it takes the dispatch parameter and it calls the action, and then action will call reducer, and reducer will change the state and it will update the store, and we will get the whole chain again. So this will take one parameter called as dispatch.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
I'm sorry.
What
Can you
happened?
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Right now it's I thought today was Saturday.
Okay, then how you came to know?
Oh, my dad reminded me, do you have class today? I told my dad today is Saturday. And
Okay.
my dad told me, "Oh, it's a Friday."
Okay.
So
So
sorry.
okay. So I will repeat the things which I said. We put all this logic inside this Google login function. So generally, this is not the very good idea because we are doing the Redux part. We should put all this logic inside the action, and action will do the logic, and then it will give the appropriate response, which will trigger the reducer, and reducer will save the state, and we will get the updated state. So right now, the task for today is we have to move this functionality to the action. So what I am trying to do, on that day we created one function called as map state to props. Today we will create one more function called as map dispatch to props. This map state to props will take the state and state will give the reducer. But here map dispatch to props will take the dispatch, and this dispatch will call the action. If you remember, if I go to index.js, we were calling the dispatch like this method store.dispatch, but we don't have stored directly in the component. So we have to use this kind of the method to call the dispatch. We need to call the dispatch. Dispatch will call the action, and action will call the reducer. Reducer will update the state, and it will save in the store. So we need to call the dispatch of the action. So we will do that in this another function. Now since I created this function, I will add that function here. I will say comma, and I will add this function here. So we have this one function and another function. This one is this function, and this one is this function. So now here, what to do in this function, just look here, and it is very important. I will return an object. I return the object, and this object will have multiple functions. So for example, it will have function 1, it will be arrow function. Maybe your application have another function, so it will be function 2. It is also an arrow function. Maybe you have another function called as function 3. This is also an arrow function. Okay. These are the custom functions inside the map dispatch to props. So let's say if I call this function 1 somewhere, let's say on Google login, I'm calling the function 1. So how to call this function 1? It is using the same way. How we are calling the myReducer? We are calling the myReducer as this dot props dot myReducer. Similarly, if I want to call function 1, how will I call it? I will call it like this dot props dot function 1. This is the way to call the function 1. If I want to call function 2, how will I call? This dot props dot function 2. If I want to call function 3, how will I call? This dot props dot function 3. So similarly, I can call as many function I want from this main function. And inside the function 1, right now I will just say console.log I am in function 1. Let's say when I click the Google login, whether I am able to see the function 1 details, that is this one. So I will go, let me start the npm. Start, and then we'll see. Okay, this is the one I will be using it. Okay, let me go to tools, developer tools. I will log out. and then I'll click the login. So once I click login, I am saying I am in the function one. That means I am able to get function one properly. So now, since I am able to go this function one, now I know that I'm able to go inside this function one. Now we have to put all this logic inside the action. So before I put all the logic, just to create this new function so that we should be in the same page. I give you in the chat and then call the function one in the Google login. Then we will move this part in the action.
Oh, in nav.js.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. Is it done?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting an error.
That you're getting.
This props function is not a function.
Okay.
I'm missing.
Okay, let me see. Something you might have missed it. Okay, let's see. You put semicolon, yeah, it's fine. Comma is fine. Okay, you have to put map dispatch to props in the last line, 117 line. You have to put comma map dispatch to props. On the line 117, you have to call this function map dispatch to props. If you see in the chat, I gave you in the chat also, or if you want to see, yeah, comma, you have to put comma. So between the two functions, you have to use comma. Yes, yes. Now it will work. Okay, log out and log in. Have you put this dot props dot function one?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, I am in function one. You are able to see it. Right, in the console.log, you are able to see I am in function one.
Yes.
Yeah, so everything is fine. Okay, now since we created this function and we are able to use it, we can use any of this one, function 1, function 2, function 3. Right now I'm using only the function 1. Let's for the sign out, let's put this dot props dot function 2. So for this I will call function 2 and for this I will call function 1. So now we don't want this part here. We want to move this part in the action, because all the time in the Redux you will be calling the action, and action will take care of all the logic and it will pass the new variables to the reducer. So most of the logic you will take away from here. Some logic will be present here whenever it is required, and I will tell you when. But right now most of the logics will go into the action. So we will move this part in the action. So let me go to the action. I will create another function in the action. I will say export constant. I will say Google login here and equal to an arrow function. And then I will also create another function called as sign out. And this will be for the sign out kind of thing. This one, this logout, you know, already we are doing it, but this sign out is specifically the copy of this sign out. And this Google login is copy of this Google login. So make sure this is separate and this is separate. Don't confuse this with this one. So maybe we can change the name. Action Google login. I will just put the name so that you know it's action. Action sign out. So we know that it is action. So now what I will do? Yeah.
I have one question.
Yeah.
What is the difference between action sign out and the log out? You create two constants. One is log out, one is sign out. Is it
One is okay. This
This-
logout.
oh,
Okay, this
it's Google.
logout. This logout is something which we did few days back. It is for the purpose when we are in the index.js, when we have this user is logged out, then we call this logged out, and that logged out will empty all the variables in the reducer. It will make all the variables null. But this sign out will specifically sign out from the Firebase like this. So this function will present in the sign out. So that logout was only for the variable emptiness. We can merge both the logout kind of thing right now, but since we are using this at different place, that is in the index, and this we are using a different place, that is in nav, so we are keeping it separate. So the purpose of these two is user clickable. User will click the Google login, it will go this action. User will click sign out, it will go this page. But this one is automatic. This one is triggered by the Firebase. So when Firebase says the user is logged in, we call this part. It will only update the variable inside our application. But this one is user triggable. User will click the Google login and we will make him log in. User will click the sign out, we will make him sign out. So this is the difference. Generally, most of the application have only one way, but here since we are using the Firebase automatic mode also, this is called automatic mode. where it automatically sign in when you come on the page or when you load the page. And this one is something we are triggering when user wants to trigger. Okay, so generally we have only one, but here since Firebase have two things, so we are doing two.
Yes.
Got it?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to move this whole part inside the Google login. So let me take this one and I will put inside the Google login. And I want to take this, I will delete from here. I don't need it. And here also I want to delete this part and put it inside the sign out. So here we have only calling the function 1 or function 2. Now remember one thing, since this is an action, we should have something like this. We should have something like return kind of thing. So let's create a return kind of thing. And here I will set type equal to Google login. Okay. So since we need to pass some type so that reducer can recognize what is the one. And I will also say payload. And inside the payload, I will write something here, blah, 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 which I will tell you in some minutes. And this one, okay, I will write something here and then I will call this inside it. So what I will write it here. So look here, I will tell you what I will write it here. So I will say inside of this. So before I write something here, I will remove it and just you put this function here, all the part here, take it from here and put it in this action and take it from here and put it in this sign out action. Put this and then I will tell you how to do this action, because action is always in this format. If I put like this, it will break. It will not work. We should have this format. So once you put this, I will tell you how to change this into this format. I don't need to give this one because you already have this in here. Just take it from here and put it here inside the action login. Or if you want, I can give you. Or you can copy paste from that one. I gave you in the chat also, or you can copy paste also. Once it is done, I will tell you how to get this format.
On the action sign out.
Yeah.
Uh,
You have to take the logout part from here. Sign out one, take the one and put it in this one.
yeah, you didn't copy it all.
Yeah.
And so nav and index. So where is that coming from? From up here. So just take this up.
Before we have.
Okay, what is the question? What is the problem?
No problem right now.
I don't know. Just put it in this section.
In
Put
the
this
last
one.
part.
Yeah, and in this function, put this one. In the action. So we are moving something from here to the action, because putting all the logic here doesn't make sense. We should be putting in the action.
Can you go back to the nav? Google login. I've got extra line there. E. I guess I didn't. And then
Can I help you?
okay,
Click on you.
I got it. I didn't miss the line when I was deleting it, I guess.
Okay.
But why? Scroll to the bottom of that page. Yeah, okay.
So totally we have 4 constants in my action.
Right.
Logged in, logged out, Google login,
Right.
sign out. Okay.
Right.
My nightly routine with my dog. Every night about this night starts barking. There's a possum in the backyard.
Okay. Is it done? Is it done?
Yes.
I'm testing.
Okay.
We can continue. We
You
can
cannot
continue.
taste it. Yeah, you cannot taste it because this will give error. This
Okay.
will not be working fine now.
Then I'm done.
Yeah, okay. So because it's not done yet, just tell me once you are done putting the code here, and rest we will see.
Okay,
Okay.
sure.
Okay, so we are calling function 1, and function 1 is this function 1, and function 1 I will make this call when user will click the function 1. So I will tie this function 1 with this Google login, and I will tie function 2 with action sign out. So I don't need function 3 right now, so I'm deleting function 3 right. I can name anything, XYZ, whatever name I want to give, I can give it. But right now I gave function 1 and function 2, simple function. Now what we have to do, we have to use this format here. So how to use this format? This is tricky one and you need to understand it little bit. This is called the AJAX kind of call because it is not immediate. It goes to the Firebase database server and comes back. So whatever method I am showing you, it will be valid for all the AJAX related stuff. And this is the one way of AJAX call. This is not the real AJAX, but it is kind of AJAX call. So now how to call this format here. So I will say I will copy this one and I will paste it here. And instead of logged out, I will say Google login. I can say anything. I'm just putting Google login. And second line will be payload. I will say payload. And inside payload, I will say new promise. What I'm saying, new promise. And it is a round bracket. Inside this new promise, I will create arrow function. And inside arrow function, I have two variables. Now here in the parameter, I have two variables. One is called resolve. And second one is called reject. So whenever you get success message, you can use resolve. Whenever you want to give some error message, you can use reject. So this is the common way of using the payload. I will give you this part in the chat. Though it is not complete, this is just a structure. Now I will put all this information inside here, inside this arrow function. So I put all the information here. And what I will do, right now I will not use the reject part. Right now I will say resolve. After I'm done with all the things, I will say resolve below the Firebase database part. And I will say resolve and I'll pass object. Which object I'm passing? This object. That means everything is done, just return this one. So instead of return, you have to say resolve. And if some error is coming, so right now we're not doing any error right now here, but let's say if some error is coming. So for example here I am closing this one is closing this part. Okay, for example, this one is closing the Firebase. Let's say some error is coming from the Firebase. It will come, I can catch that error by putting catch statement. And let's say it has some function error. And so this error is coming from the Firebase. So I can reject this error. So if anything is coming from the Firebase as an error, I can reject it. I will give you this part which you can put after the Firebase if condition, Firebase condition. So now what I did, I created a payload. I put the promise and I say resolve or reject. And I started with the arrow function. And inside the arrow function, I put whole information there. And I added this catch part. And inside this Firebase database, I say resolve. So if success is there, I will resolve this part with the object. And if it is failure, I will go here. So this is the part done on the Google login side. So I will give you this function again. Maybe you can overwrite it or you can take this some part, just update this function. So still it will not work, but we are just, I need to do some more changes to make it work.
done with the coding, but I have one question.
Yeah,
How can we understand the promise in React?
right.
Promise.
Promise is something, promise is a concept where we use it generally with the Ajax related stuff. So when Ajax is called, it goes to the server and returns back from the server. So when it goes to the server and it returns back the server, it takes some time to come back from the server. So the promise helps us to know when the things are done. So when the Ajax returns something, and then if I have used a promise and if I put Ajax call inside the promise, then whenever the Ajax will return, then promise will help us to return the object of the Ajax. So promise is something kind of, I will just put it in diagram, little bit small diagram. So this is the promise. Inside promise, let's say inside, I'm just putting some not exact thing. Inside the promise, I call the Ajax call. And Ajax will take couple of seconds or 1 second or 2 seconds to return the data from the server. If I don't use promise, then I have to manipulate when the data will come. Then I have to write the code there at how to manipulate that data. But if I'm using promise, promise helps us to return the data of the Ajax call. So whenever the Ajax data, I can just say resolve and I will pass the data. So that means whoever is calling the promise will get the data whenever data will come from the server. Or if some error is coming, I will say reject data. So it will also help us in rejecting the data. So this promise help us to use the Ajax call in our application. It waits for the Ajax return, and once the Ajax is returned, we can return the data which will come from the Ajax call. So just remember that it helps in the Ajax return. Generally, if Ajax is called, once I run this part, I cannot return the data. I need to call the callback function, and that makes our application little difficult to maintain. But with the promise, I can wrap all the Ajax call, and when something is returned, we will just say resolve, and that resolve will automatically return that value of the Ajax call and assign it to the payload.
Oh, okay.
Right now, if I use Ajax call here and I don't have the promise, then what will happen? It will not wait for the data from the server. It will directly return the things to the payload. And since we don't have data from the server, we will be in the bad situation. This payload will always be null. Now, what will happen if I use promise? It will wait for the data to come from the server. And once the data will come from the server, we will use resolve. So this part will send back to the payload.
Yes.
So payload will have this object variable. Whatever the object is there will be go here as a payload. You will understand this because it takes time to grasp. This is a new thing for you. It takes a little time to understand. Right now, just remember that all Ajax calls should be there. When we return it, if we don't have this promise, it will return immediately, and every time it will be null. But now it will not be null because we are using promise. So the data will wait. The function will wait till the data is coming from the server, and once it is coming, once it is there, it will return the data to this payload.
Yes.
Okay, is it done? Coding is done, Tony?
Yes.
Okay.
The only change was in that one function, right?
Right.
Okay.
This part and this part. Okay. So now what we'll do, we are using the Firebase here, but we are not calling in the top. So it will give error. So we have to copy this part, this Firebase part. I will delete it from here because it is not needed here. And I will put it in the action. So we just copy it from navigation to action so that it should not give any error. Let's see now any error is coming, then we'll solve that one. Okay, right now no error is coming. At least the warning was there. Now we have to use this function. We have to use this function in navigation. And we have to use this function here, especially in this function 1. So when function 1 is called, actually I have to call this action, that is called action Google login. This action Google login has to be called only when function 1 is called. When function 1 is called, then we will call this action Google login. So how to call this one? Look here. So what I will do, since this is the action, I will call this action in the import statement. So in the top, I will say import curly bracket Google action Google login, comma. I will call this also action sign out from dot slash action slash my action dot js. So I'm calling these two functions. Now I have this dispatch functionality there. I will just say here dispatch, and inside the dispatch I will say action Google login. And from where this is coming? From here it is coming. And from where this is coming? From here, my action, it is coming, this one. So I created the my action. In the my action file, I created action Google login. And I'm calling in the nav.js, I'm calling this here. And then I'm using this action Google by dispatching it. Since it is action, we have to dispatch it. Similarly, in the index.js, we dispatch the action like this. We dispatch the action. So similarly, in the nav, we have to dispatch this action by saying action Google login here. Now, if I want to dispatch the second one, action sign out, I will dispatch it here. I will do that in some time. Right now, I want to keep it like this only. Now, first I want to test this part, whether it's going it and going correctly or not. So let me refresh. Okay, so index.js, this is a warning. Don't worry about this warning. And now what I will do, I will click the user, I will click the Google login. When I click the Google login, it goes to the action, and in the action, it triggers the Firebase part, and we are calling this Firebase, and I select this, my name, and then it came as a Google login underscore fulfilled. But I have created the type as Google login, but it is returning what? What is coming here? Action
Fulfilled.
Google login fulfilled. But here I created Google login. So that means whenever we use promise kind of the functionality, and whenever we have the type, that type will be changed to the fulfilled. Fulfilled means everything is correct. And so Google login will go away. So if I by mistakenly create a reducer with the Google login type, so if I go to my reducer, generally what happens, whatever action we have, similarly case type we created in the reducer. So this is my reducer. I will think that, okay, let's create one more case here. This will be Google login. And here I will say state state equal to this state, and blah 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 variable will come here, but that will fail because there is nothing like Google login in the my reducer. Why it's not there? Because you will see, okay, I will log in again to show you. Okay, sign out is not doing anything. because I removed the sign out part. Let's put this sign out part again there. For temporary, because I did not create a sign out and I'm not able to test it. So let's see, let's sign out now. So when I log in, initially Google login is coming. You will see Google login is coming, but that does not make any sense because at that time we don't have any server data. But when server is returned, when something is coming from the AJAX call, you will see it is coming as a fulfilled. So if I only build the Google login here in my reducer, it will not really do the work because server data does not come in the Google login format. Whatever type we have used here in the my action, it has to go with the fulfilled. So instead of Google login, I will say Google login underscore fulfilled. So when I say Google login fulfilled, that means it goes here in the state and do whatever variable change we want to do, and it will update the variable. Right now I don't have any variable to update it, but I will do it in some time. So just right now remember that. So what you have to remember? You have to remember that you created the action. Inside action, you created the type. You created the payload with the promise. And once this promise is returned by the resolve, this resolve will change this type. This resolve will change this type to Google login underscore fulfilled. So whenever, if you want to do any manipulation in the reducer, you will not do with the Google login because Google login will not have any data from the server. You have to do Google login underscore fulfilled. And then all the information will be available here. Is that clear?
Yes, but do we need to delete the Google login? The case Google login. Right now we have fulfilled.
Yes, we don't need Google login because at that time we don't have any data from the server. It's a meaningless, so we will delete that.
In the reducer?
In the reducer. Though in the action we have Google login, but in the reducer we will delete Google login. We will use only Google login fulfilled.
Yes.
So now just put this part for now because we don't have any other variable to do that. So just for dummy, for the time sake, put this one, and we will not put any other logic right now. Right now we will just say this one only, state equal to state, keep it same, and will not do anything. Okay, and there we use the payload of this one. So all the AJAX call will work like this one. We have to use like this one. So this part is little complicated. Try to do this. I will repeat this again when we will meet on 24th. I will repeat it. Now we will directly meet on 24th. Tomorrow, if the payment will come from the PayPal, I will refund you all for the next week's payment because I will not take next week class. Is this clear, this part?